Township Board of Trustees. Thank you. Regular meeting Tuesday, February 6, 2024, 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Burkholder?
Here.
Ms. McKee?
Here.
Ms. McKee, would you be kind enough to give the invocation?
Absolutely. Please stand.
Thank you.
If you would. And bow your heads. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for your divine intervention in our community. May your peace reside in this midst and bring an end to this conflict and discord that's threatened to divide this township. I earnestly pray that you would soften the hardened hearts and grant us the wisdom to resolve our differences peacefully. Lord, guide our leaders and empower us to promote unity and understanding amongst all members of our community. I beseech you, O God, to pour out your grace upon us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Evans. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Yes, go ahead.
Wanted to add on to the agenda if we could consider moving our date of our next meeting because of the Lincoln dinner being next March, if we could start discussing that, add that onto the agenda. The Lincoln dinner is on the 5th, which is a Tuesday.
Right. Mr. Evans, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, except
I had planned to attend that as well, but since my feeling is since it's a political meeting, a partisan meeting, I didn't feel comfortable. I wish I could go, but I hate to move a regular meeting.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you bringing it up. I don't know why they did that. Before, I think it's on a Friday or something.
No, normally it's not on a Friday. It's normally on like a Thursday.
Thursday.
yeah, I mean, I'm leaning towards keeping a regular meeting for consistency in that, not changing for, especially political purposes.
Any further discussion?
I did have one question on, I had a couple of things that need to be addressed, like with the fire district and Park Pond. Should those be added to the agenda or just within the various classifications of the agenda?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. That's why I went ahead and put the fire district and the parks on there so that those could be discussed under those reports.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
Feel free to. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from the trustee January 2nd organizational and regular meeting minutes? Let's do those as one, and then we will do the others on separate motion. So is there a motion to approve the reorganization and the regular meeting of January 2nd, 2024?
I would actually move to table it to the next meeting because I just got these yesterday at almost 4 o'clock and I have not had time to go through those. I know it's important to get these out timely and they're already a month behind, but I think if for the public's sake, if they wanted to have the draft, that's fine. But as far as reviewing it, I have not been able to review these.
Okay, well, I'll second that motion to table. The reason that they are delayed is because there's been such a volume, and of course we have 9 pages on the draft, but I'll let the public know those draft minutes are a public record. So if you would like to get a copy of that, just let us know, and we'll be happy to make you a copy for that. So roll call on the motions to table those minutes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
No.
And the motion to table the January 8th and the January 16th as well. I'll make that motion. The January 16th minutes are not complete already yet, but the special meeting that we had is. Is there a second to that motion to
I'll
table?
make a second to that one.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Those will be tabled, and we will address those at the 20th, but they are available for the public to view. At this time, I invited Jim Henry to come in and speak to the board. He's with E.P. Ferris and Associates, an engineering firm here in Columbus, Ohio. Jim, if you would like to come up to the podium, yes, and please state your name and then also either your address or the address of the firm.
I don't think so.
Testing, okay. My name is Jim Henry, and I'm with the firm E.P. Ferris and Associates. Our address is 2130 Quarry Trails Drive, second floor, Columbus, Ohio, 43228. If you need the phone number, the office number is 614-299-2999. With that, I've been asked to talk about the firm and what we do and what I have provided to the trustees. I've actually been with E.P. Ferris now for 8 years, coming up on 8 years. The previous 23 years, I served as the Knox County engineer, not far from here. So I'm totally familiar with township trustees because I have 22 townships in Knox County, and we work together all the time. With E.P. Ferris, what I've provided is a statement of qualifications for the firm for professional design, engineering, and surveying. And as I was preparing that in conversation with Gary Burkholder, we decided to go ahead and provide plan review and oversight and construction inspection. So there are actually 2 sets of statements of qualifications that I have provided to the trustees for consideration. This is what we have to do as a firm is typically every 2 years to counties, townships, villages, cities. We provide statements of qualifications so they can select from statements of qualification for various firms for whatever project or whatever consideration, where they're looking for a firm to provide that service. And I will say very quickly, background to this, while I was serving as the Knox County engineer, I worked with various consulting firms, and I made friends with a number of people. And one of them, I have continued that friendship. I've known the guy for 20 years. He happens to be a good friend of Gary's. So push came to shove. He was in marketing, I'm in marketing, and my friend suggested reach out to Gary. We did, I did. And part of this was what I've been doing for probably the last 2.5, 3 months is our firm has served as the city engineer for the city of New Albany for 35 years. And we are currently dealing with Intel and that project and everything associated with it within New Albany. And my idea was to create an Intel impact community conversation so that the outlying communities, the neighbors of New Albany who are feeling that impact in terms of jobs and housing and restaurants and hotels and whatever else, public and private, that we can provide various services for those people as well as for New Albany. Very similar in terms of the plan development, construction, etc. So with that, I actually had Etna Township on my list among 25 other contacts. And when I talked to my friend, he mentioned Gary. We finally got together, and here I am. So with that, if you have any questions, be happy to try to answer them. The trustees do have 2 sets of statements of qualifications, and I have a copy here. If you have any questions about the services we provide, fire away.
Yeah, well, it'll be limited, questions will be limited to the Board of Trustees, but I'll open it up at this time. Ms.
I didn't
McKee.
get those documents.
I put them in the mail, I put them in everybody's mail.
Yeah, they should have been emailed to us, that's why I didn't get them. I'm not even back here in the building, so
Okay.
I'm not going to.
Well, I'm not, yeah, we're not gonna make any decision tonight,
Yeah,
because
we
I
need
want,
to.
I want to give the trustees an opportunity to read those over, so,
Right,
thank
that's
you.
important, yeah.
Did you have any other?
No, I'd rather wait till I get the information and then ask questions.
That'll be fine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't have any questions, so like I said, I'll wait until I read the statement of qualifications, but it's good to have the dialogue.
I will say in closing, the firm consists of right now about 71 employees, 22 of which are either licensed professional engineers or surveyors. I'm actually a PE NPS myself as a former county engineer, and I've maintained those licenses. So anyway.
So I do have another question.
Go ahead.
Which is just a basic question, so I don't have the information in front of me. What is the board's, as far as bringing on this, if we did decide to go this route, what is the purpose of bringing on additional engineering for this township?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. One of the things that motivated me to start looking and having conversations with outside firms is I think we need some independent review on some of the projects that we've had some problems with here in the township. I know that the county engineer's office is very busy. We've been working with Licking County Planning Commission on some of these problems. They have a compliance officer, but I think it's prudent for the Board of Trustees and the township to do some independent reviews on some of the projects taking place in the county. The amount and volume of development in Licking County is unprecedented, and I want to make sure that we are in compliance with the zoning. And I think it takes more than a zoning inspector to do that, because I think you have to have the ability to look at the engineering plans and then compare that to the zoning resolutions, particularly when it comes to landscaping and setbacks. And I know we already have some problems with those here in the township. So that was my motivation, to begin at least to look at some firms, vet some firms, and be prepared to be proactive when it comes to the enforcement of the zoning resolution.
And so you guys will be able to work with the county, because we're regulated. You'll be able to work with the county engineer's office, the planning commission as Licking County, and also work with the zoning
Yes.
as well. So
We,
that's additional money that the township is spending, that
yes.
we get free with the county level.
Again,
But you're just going to be make sure we're in compliance, is that?
in plan review, our compliance is both public and private. So we would deal with the county engineer, with City of Columbus if we have to, and we have good connections there.
Okay.
You know, that's what we're doing for Grandview Heights and for New Albany, and we are doing plan review and oversight and construction inspection for Gahanna as well.
Mhm.
I'm probably forgetting some. I think we're getting involved in Heath. Recently that came to pass. So yes, we're doing this for a number of other communities, and it is, as I said, it's Intel impact. It's all of these, and talking to Gary, you can see it driving in. You have a number of warehouses that, in terms of construction, you have utilities, site development, and then the actual construction of the building. So we deal with all of that.
You bring up a good point. I haven't had a chance, which is why I don't want the board to take any action here tonight, but cities, I don't know if townships, and that's what I want to check, but cities can back charge the cost of those engineering reviews to the developer. And so that's something I want to check with the prosecutor to see if we have that ability. Because I know now the county on some of, they also have a third-party engineer that they use to assist with some of these reviews as well at the engineer's office. So that's something I want to check, but in my opinion, it's money well spent, because when these major mistakes are made with buffering or stormwater and those kinds of things, those end up costing the residents in the long run, either by having a negative impact on their property, or if we have to go out and do the enforcement and then the repairs, or if there's litigation, that's a hidden cost that most people, I don't think, consider. And so, I mean, I talked about this during the campaign, and I think it's important that the quality of development and construction in this township be at the highest level. And that's my opinion. Mr. Evans, do you have anything you want to say?
I'd just like to say it's no different than we have the prosecutor as our attorney, but if it's a specialized case, specialized area, even the prosecutor recommends that we go seek specialized outside counsel with all the issues that we've been dealing with, and many in the community with just large projects being built next to them and maybe not up to standard. I think it is time that we at least look at options, get more information, and do what we can to ensure our duty to protect the residents is upheld.
Gary, if I could, let me just say, the proposal we presented to you for the plan review, oversight, and construction inspection is, there's a rate sheet at the back, and it identifies the specialized, the expertise that you would ask us to provide, and it gives an hourly rate. This is not a fee agreement, you know, you're not retaining us to do this. It is simply providing a rate sheet, and you tell us what you want done. We charge according to that rate sheet, and, you know, wait for the next opportunity.
Great, thank you. And we'll go ahead and have a couple of weeks now to review those documents. Thank you, Jim.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we come to public comments. You'll have 3 minutes. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and is anyone going to open it up now for public comments? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Trustee Mead. I live over 245 Hillview Drive. It's right here in Etna Township. I am here not as, I am a resident, but my purpose here tonight is as the president of West Licking Historical Society, which is, of course, covers Etna Township, Harrison Township, Jersey Township, Kirkersville, and Pataskla. So it's a huge area that we cover for the history of our area. I'm kind of on my visit and say hello. I apologize, I have not been to a trustee meeting here since I became president during COVID, because we all just love that. But it's just something that I'm passionate about, preserving the history of this area, which we're also intertwined in this corner of the county. And we actually meet in the historic Etna Township building, which is right over here on Pike Street, the little white building. So that's where we usually meet, except for in winter when we have snow and it's, parking becomes a bit of a trip. But we haven't had that. Please, no more. I don't want snow. But the primary reason tonight is to let you know with, I don't know if you all have heard of America 250, which is the celebration of the 250, there's a big word for it, anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And there's, as a member of the Historical Society is part of the Licking County Historical Alliance, which is basically, the best way I can describe it is networking for historical societies and historical museums. And we are actually putting together a passbook project that will include all the townships in Licking County and municipalities. So there will be places that you can go to visit. And here in Licking County, or Etna Township, sorry, to look at, like, including the National Road.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, and also the historic Township Hall, and we're trying to come up with, you basically, if you go to if you Google America 250, I'd say to the trustees, we could become an American 250 community, and I've been saying this to all the townships. There is a township, actually it's cities, villages, townships. So, and it's something that you all would have to fill that out. I can't do that for you. I could be part of the committee if that's something you wish. But I can't do the filling out. That's something that y'all have to decide. But I think it's something that, planning events and that sort of thing throughout that time is also something to consider as fun things, So that's
Now, is that in 2020?
2026. Yeah, but there will be activities. They've already had some early preliminary things, like Boston had some big to-do for the Boston Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be things, you'll be hearing about things, different places leading up to that. So,
Yeah, well, thank you, we'll take it. We'll
But-
look at it and let you know.
Thank you, Christie.
Yes? And I'll let you know when you have 1 minute left. I'll give you a warning when you have 1 minute left, but go ahead.
It won't take me long. I'm Chuck Bundy, 10254 Tollgate Road. I have a question about, I think Gary's idea of having a consulting firm on board to check on some of these things that have been violated in the past, and I think it's a good idea. My question would be, Mr. Henry represents EP Ferris and Associates. Is that the only engineering firm you've contacted with this idea? You don't have to answer that, but I just think you should have, several people that are interested in being our consultants.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer that. Yes, that is the only firm I've contacted, but if there are other firms or if the other trustees would like other firms to present or be considered, be more than happy to entertain that as well. So thank you.
I think it's important to have more than just one person
Sure.
interview for it.
Right.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Could I, oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
Rachel Zelazny, 10141 Tollgate Road Southwest. I actually am excited that you brought somebody in to talk about that. I've been coming to these meetings for 2 years now after a business took out 5 wetlands on their property and made my house look like an island when it rains. 2 years later, nothing has been fixed. There's buildings that are on the building or on the property that were never approved by Licking County. I think we do need people to be able to handle that amount, since Licking County is growing at the fastest rate and they can't keep up with all the work. Neighbors are suffering, my family's suffering from it. So I would like to do that, but I'd also like to see what are we doing about stormwater issues, because just because companies mitigate and pay fines, it does not fix damages that are caused to neighbors. And that's all I think. Thank you.
Well, I'll be happy to maybe have a few comments on that under trustee comments, because I think that is a very good question. Anyone else?
Can you hear me? I'm kind of short.
Yeah, just, there you go.
Michelle Christie, 252 Gilead Street, Cardington, Ohio. That's Morrow County. 74, Sycamore Creek Road, Etna, Ohio. The gentleman who just spoke, please forgive me, what about say, okay? Nothing personal to you. Rosalind, did you know about this?
No. No, he put the stuff in the mailbox today, which was, you know.
No, it's been there. It's been there
Yeah, I don't cut, but.
5 or 6 days.
Yeah, I'm not in here every day anymore since, you know, I don't need to be. But normally when we have documents, we email it. We don't put them in mailboxes, so.
Are you guys on a personal agenda?
But that's okay if he had to do that to prove his point, that's fine.
I wasn't trying to prove point. Do you have comments? The time is
But that's
yours.
okay.
Your time
It's
is,
okay, I'll get it.
your time
No
is
worries.
running.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans, if I have to go to the prosecutor again, you'll know I went to the prosecutor again. Okay? Putting my name in with Amy and the prosecutor is out of line. I just want you, that needs to be on record. She talked to me. She
Does
said.
that have anything to do with Etna Township?
Let's have order here now. Just please continue.
I talked to Amy. She said I didn't do anything wrong. Okay? You didn't ask me what I did. I didn't do anything. I came in to get records. Okay? So I want that in the notes somewhere. Thank you.
I would just like a
Well, I'm
brief,
sorry, did you call me a name?
No, I didn't.
I'd just like a brief reply on that. That was about a Facebook comment by Ms. Christie saying that she saw communications by her prosecutor regarding the BZA meeting. I asked for it to be looked at. Ms. Christie apparently told the prosecutor falsehoods about prior acts, and I am concerned that Ms. Christie was shown prosecutorial communications that were privileged.
Ms. Christie did not.
Okay, well, obviously you don't agree. Is there anyone else that would like to speak tonight? And you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and
Yes.
address. Thank you.
My name is Eileen DeRolf. I live at 12520 Refugee Road, Pataskala, Ohio. It is hoped that you here tonight are aware that China is our #1 geopolitical adversary. All of America's adversary, not this town, not the next town, all the towns. It is also hoped you are aware from the numerous articles on that subject that China poses a number of national security threats, including, but not limited to, spying on our military bases, data centers, etc., and concerns about many acres of farmland owned by China with what purpose may be questionable. There is so much more, and it's really critical that our politicians down at the State House are aware of our concerns on this and are knowledgeable on this topic, as it's important for all of us to be knowledgeable on such an important topic. Because of that, some citizens in the area have put together what ought to be a fine, not in our town hall. You are all encouraged to come. It'll be at the 27th of this month from 6 to 8. Several experts will be flown in on the topic. We will have a very good host. We hope to have a lot of politicians there because they don't know, well, no offense, not all the politicians know as much as we'd like them to know. So we're hoping that this will put wind at their backs to get a bill passed down at the State House to limit the amount of power that China is starting to exert in this country. I hope you're concerned about that, and again, I really encourage you to come. It'll be at the middle school, Licking Heights Middle School, 6 to 8 on the 27th. There are at least 300 seats, but it will be first come, first served seating, so I wouldn't wait too long to show up. But again, there's lots more to know. Go to notinpataskala.com website, or not in PASPLA.com, or not in PASPLA Facebook page. And you can learn more. There are lots of articles that you can link to and read about. So thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate that. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Vicki Helsel, 9646 Linz Road. I think it's time that we make a ruling in this township, in the meetings, that we're not going to do personal attacks like we've seen the last 2 years. That had nothing to do with Etna Township. That was a personal reason. She should have been talking to Trustee Mark. If anybody has any problems with the trustee, they should go directly to the trustee and not bring it up in personal attacks here in the meeting. That's all.
Thank you.
If you don't know what happened, you should be quiet.
You're out of order. You know, one of the things that I think everybody in this room, including the trustees, wants a more civil discourse. And so I understand there are hard feelings. And I certainly was the recipient of quite a few personal attacks,
so was I.
including my family. And I'm not disagreeing with you, Trustee McKee. So I'm glad you made that comment. So I guess my request is that all of us, including all three of the trustees, that we lower the temperature and stay focused on the many, many challenges and issues that we have. And hey, I'm an emotional guy too. So, I mean, I know it's tempting to hit back in those things, but let's keep it civil, but let's keep it on the facts. And I've always said, I've been in elected office before. All of you have a right in this country to come in and criticize your government. So I don't mind if you criticize me or my colleagues, but have it based on the policy and the decisions that we make, and do your best to bring the correct facts. And I would agree that personal attacks are non-productive for our township. So thank you for those comments, and hopefully we can all do better together. So is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time for?
I just wanted to add, I agree with what the gentleman said about requesting additional SOQs. You really should have at least 3 in your file.
Right, and I appreciate
And I
that.
neglected to say that.
Well, no,
We're not the only guys in town.
Well, you're fine, and I think we'll put out a request for qualifications. I just wanted, since you and I had talked, I wanted to broach that subject to the community, that we're more than happy to look at other firms, because I think it's time to move in that direction. So, thank you. Anyone else that wants?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Trustee.
Judy Kaffmeyer, 29 Roma Court. I just also want to say I appreciate that the consultation for an outside firm, because some of these situations have been going on way too long and then put on the back burner, being told that they're being taken care of, they weren't taken care of, and then we have people that come back in and just say, I've had this issue for for years. I'm confused, because at the beginning of the meeting, Ms. McKee, wanted to change the meeting date, and then the topic went off, and then y'all voted yes. So did you vote yes to change the meeting?
No,
Question.
that wasn't an amendment. So.
Well, I know, but I just
Right.
wondered. Anyways, so, but I also want to thank the trustees for the exclusionary zone that's being proposed, that is being put forward, passed over with our commissioners. And that public meeting will be March 26th. It's a Tuesday night at 6 p.m. at the Administrative Building in Newark. And anyone that is for or against those issues has that opportunity to put forth. But I hope that we are all there in force to protect our township. Thank you.
I want to interject, because a question came up at our last meeting. Could we have that meeting moved to Etna Township so it'd be more convenient for residents to attend? I did attend a recent county commissioner meeting. In fact, it was the meeting when they actually passed that resolution setting the hearing and the date. And I was told by the commissioners, and they were very accommodating. They said they are going to have it at the courthouse, at the administration building, simply because they wanted to treat everyone fairly. Liberty Township, when they came, they had it there. And they said, while we have great facilities here, not every township does. So they wanted to treat everyone equally, and that's why. But I did ask if they could move it, and they said they're going to have it there at the administration. So thanks for announcing that date. Anyone else that wants to speak at this time?
Matt Koonsman, 272 Auburn Drive. I won't take too much time away from everybody because I know you have important issues to talk about, but I wanted to come and talk tonight just briefly to say that I am the conservative Republican candidate for Licking County Common Pleas Court this fall. I'm running against Democrat David Brandstuhl. A little bit about me. I grew up in Northwest Ohio as a 4-H kid, small farming and manufacturing community. Came down here to go to Ohio State and Capital Law School, and I've been 15 years a lawyer, trial lawyer the entire time, and now I'm a magistrate in the Common Pleas Court. I live with my wife and daughter and have been in Licking County since 2006. The reason why I'm running is because I have numerous differences of opinion, especially with judicial philosophy that is being exercised, discretion in sentencing. I think that judges should serve Licking County by protecting citizens, families, and property owners. I think that the rights of victims should come first, and criminals should get the sentences that they deserve, not the sentences that they've been getting. I'm running to uphold the law, not to rewrite it from the bench. And I want to know, I just want to say, if you all believe in that same thing. I know we're a ways away from November. It's early, but we're trying to get out and talk to everybody and get the word out that that's what we're doing for this fall. So I'll be back. I'll probably be visiting many of you door to door as well, and you'll see me in a lot of the events and everything like that this summer. But I did want to come early and introduce myself and let you know that there's another option out there, and that option, if you agree with as well, I would really appreciate your vote in November. So it's Koonsman, K-U-N-S-M-A-N, for judge on everything, Facebook, the web, and socials, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at this time that would like to speak? Please come forward.
Matthew Rosenberg, 46 Cedar Park Boulevard. I feel like after seeing tonight, we need to move these meetings into a circus tent. Like this is, we were promised less and we're getting more tonight. Like I'm sorry we didn't bring a popcorn machine in. First thing is I'm really frustrated that this is the second meeting now that several of us have asked you guys to revise your policy on how we secure passwords in here. And it hasn't been done. You guys have a PO for $35,000 for legal costs, but we can't spend $400 a year to do a proper password management system for this township. Now's the time to do it while you're losing key people and they're leaving with that information, and we're not doing it. Is just appalling to us residents for how you guys are safekeeping township records and stuff. Next, I think it is a horrible timing to try to change it, bring in social media in here, when right now there is no unelected person to manage that, which means there's no non-biased person to run that. Having an elected official run that, whether they have the best intentions or not, is a horrible idea and opens us up for a stream of problems, a lack of trust, and probably even litigation if the wrong thing is said from the wrong person and is perceived wrong by the right group of people. This is not what we should be focused on right now. And looking at a temporary solution for an administrative person is, why put the money into a third-party company to find someone temporarily instead of investing the time in finding the right person moving forward? You know, this is, what I'm seeing here is not the direction we were promised. This is not the direction we need to move in. And it's, I ask you guys to refocus that and reconsider some of the things that you guys are proposing tonight. And with that, for the 26th meeting, if anyone wants to ride out to NERC, since apparently our opinion has to travel in the middle of the county, I'll take rides with me so we can go speak on that in the city for the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so you know, I actually agree with some of your comments here, and I will say that this is been a difficult time, I think, not only for the community, but for the Board of Trustees with some of the resignations and some of the policy changes that need to be made. So I do appreciate the comments as far as things on the agenda. We did not get everything on the agenda that was requested. As I've said before, we're going to try to keep these meetings a reasonable time. We are keeping a list of pending items, and so I'm not trying to exclude anyone from putting anything on the agenda, and I think on some of those issues, we'll have further discussion here later in the meeting. So again, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak at this time? Yes, come on up.
Letitia McIntyre, 15 3rd Avenue Southwest in Etna. Mine is kind of on a, for my church. We usually have an event that is hopefully going to be in June. I find out this weekend the exact date in the High Point Park. And so I am just putting a request about how do I go about that being with all the new changes? Who would I contact to put that request in?
Well, I think you can contact any of us trustees, and then I think we'd bring it to the board. Mr. Evans, do you have some thoughts on that?
I was going to say, I think we're going to be dealing with the division of duties, absent administrator, and I mean, are you asking, because I know previously the park is public land,
Yes.
so anybody can use it in that, so, but if you're saying to reserve the park, I'm not quite sure if that's even legally possible, is it?
I don't know what we did. I know you participated with a booth when we had movie night, so
Yes.
I don't think we can actually reserve the park, but I think having advance notice.
Yes, in the past, probably for the last 10 years, we've done this event pre-COVID, shall I
Right.
say. Last year was the first year we came back to the park. So we've always kind of just given a heads up to make sure that there is no community events going on, because what we want to do is invite the community to attend this. And kind of like you all did with the movie thing, we were actually a week before the movie thing.
Right, I do
So,
remember, right.
Yeah, so again, I'm just reaching out to make sure that would be okay, that there would be no pending, you know, I guess events, because they fell so close together. Would we be able to do that? Even though, yes, I understand it is public land.
What do you have a specific date, or how soon will you have?
I will have that this weekend, because
Okay.
we are going to have a board meeting through the church this Saturday, and we are going to discuss the exact date. I just happened to be here tonight and thought I might as well just throw that out there. I know it's not until June, but I think it's always good to plan ahead.
No, that's great. Go
Mr.
ahead.
President, could I just say, could you just get us that as soon as possible, and then we can take it up at the next meeting?
I definitely can email all three of you.
During
if you'd
that
like.
time, maybe we can check to make sure legality of anything of
Great.
reserving.
Do you have anything,
Thank you
Ms.
very
McKee?
much.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I've attended yours this year,
Mhm.
well, last year, I should say. It was a nice event. So yeah, I would like to see it happen again.
All right, thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Anyone? Very good, thank you. We'll move on. The road department, I'll be giving a brief report on that. I did have an opportunity, and this really pertains more to Pike Street. I know we have that further down on the agenda, but I did meet with the Transportation Improvement District, which would have been the county engineer, Mr. Lozier, who's the head of the TID. We had officials from ODOT. Ms. Hanson was there as well. We had a discussion regarding those plans. We wanted to get some clarification on the compensation, because the township has agreed to pay $80,000 plus change to do additional engineering that's required for a 550-foot gap that it only goes to the creek out by the church, and it doesn't go far enough to connect into the High Point development. So that's something that the board here is going to have further conversations on. I've also had some calls from residents on Mink Street as it relates to the problems we're having over there with trucks still trying to get access to those facilities from Mink Street instead of coming down the Parkway. One of the things that was mentioned was that the addresses are given to those truck drivers with a Mink Street address. rather than a global way. So I throw that out to the board to see if, what process we need to do more investigation, if we can get those addresses changed to a global way address so that they come in off of the parkway rather than having all that truck traffic. And we have reports that they stop in those lanes and vehicles have to go around them in order to pass because they're stopped there, and that's a dangerous situation. So that's something we're looking into as well. Go ahead.
Chair, sir. You mentioned Pike Street project, and now you're talking Mink Street. I don't see, we're kind of confused of where we're going from Pike Street. So you're done with the Pike Street project?
I mean, we can have more discussion on that on the agenda. I just wanted to mention that, but go ahead if you.
No, I just want to make sure, because
Sure.
I want to make sure I have my information so we go there. Okay.
Regarding
Not a problem.
Mink Street, I was under the impression that there's to be a signage there. I'm not sure how large of a sign is supposed to be there, or if it's even been installed, but I would think a very large sign maybe was possibly in the works, but also maybe work with somebody to change those addresses, because to ensure that. But I haven't been updated on that at all. But then I did have a question on with the roads, the Loop Road. If
Yes, go ahead.
got a moment?
Yep, sure.
Loop Road, got a response back from Jared Nur, county engineer, regarding doing a turnaround there. Well, it turns out that the road was built with a turnaround, and it actually uses the last residence apron of the driveway. That's actually within the right of way and part of the roadway. So I would like to get permission to deal with Jared on not constructing a cul-de-sac as they proposed at, I think, $250,000, but just ensuring that that turnaround is adequate for the buses. If we've, maybe over the years that hasn't been maintained, it got narrower or what, but that is part of the roadway, and if we could modify that to allow that school bus to turn around properly, I think that's the way to go, because the tailings that were put in down the road are not adequate. They're being blown out, and they're having issues with those. And I don't want to have that service stopped for those kids. So would it be okay by this board to contact her and work with them?
Given the fact that we're now short-staffed without an administrator, I would move to give Mr. Evans the permission to begin the conversations with Jared Nur to see what kind of solutions we can come up with for Loop Road. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead.
I just want the residents to know, because the fact that you guys live in Etna, just like us board members, that solution was resolved a few weeks ago, okay? Ms. Hanson, our administrator, had the pole moved so the bus can now turn around. Bubba went out there to fill in the area where the bus had to make the turn. So it's all taken care of.
No, it's not.
Excuse me,
Hold on.
Mr. Evans,
Let's
I'm talking.
let's take
And
our
so
turns.
I know some of you guys may not like the fact that I'm giving you facts, but this is our money in our township. And why should we spend $200 and something thousand, and we've already had it rectified by having a pole move that we didn't spend a dime on? And the resident that had the complaint is happy that their kids can now get on that school bus and is safe. So that's all I wanted to give you that information.
Okay, well, let me give a little update because I have a little insight. I did talk to the transportation director at the school, and he indicated that given all the rain and everything, some of those grindings were giving away. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I guess what I'd like to do, and obviously we're not going to make any decision or spend any money, it'll be a board decision, but I guess I would like to have some more facts of what's really going on out there, because that's the most recent thing I heard, and that conversation probably took place within the last 2 weeks.
Okay, well, I spoke to Mr. Rager, the individual, where that was done. I provided the board pictures of the tailings that were pushed out at the last meeting. They are having issues and possibly going to stop that service there. Again, I just spoke to him, And there is no way that I'm proposing that we're gonna do a $250,000 cul-de-sac there. I just said that the turnaround was actually built into the road in the front part of that driveway, so it is there. We might have to widen it, improve it, or whatever, but that is actually what was built for that turnaround. So to say that there's no problems, it's incorrect. Yes, the pole was moved, the asphalt tailings were put in, but if you're gonna put anything like that in, you gotta put in some number twos, or those things just push right out. So that what was done is not adequate. The individual said that, and they've had conversations with the district transportation department too.
Okay,
So
good.
I can get all the information and provide to the board.
Provide it to the board.
That's not
Yeah,
correct.
and I appreciate that, just because the fact that the engineer's office did provide us with an estimate, and that's why it said it was 200-something thousand.
And
I don't have it here in my packet, but they did provide that to the town.
Well, I appreciate you clarifying that so that we know, and I'll call the question at this time.
Ms. McKee?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Moving on to the zoning report. I've been in the office working with both the township secretary and Mr. Latella, who is our interim zoning inspector. So he is processing reports, and of course we had a BZA hearing recently, and that hearing is closed, but that meeting has not been scheduled for the follow-up meeting. And I don't know if they're going to recess that or make a decision at that time. So that date has not been announced yet. I really don't have a lot more to say about zoning right now. Parks and Recreation, I did contact Jim Jackowitz with EMH&T regarding the park committee. I know we have applications for consideration, but given the length of this agenda, I would like us to schedule a time on the 20th, which will be our next meeting, to interview some of the interested residents that want to serve on the park committee as well. And speaking with Jim Jackowitz, they have compiled the surveys, and now they're going to be creating some graphs and getting a report back to both the committee and to the township trustees. So there's not a real rush right now until they get that compiled, and then Jim and the committee will be notified when that next meeting will be. That will be a public meeting, so we want to make sure if any residents want to come and at least observe that meeting. And I'll open it up, Ms. McKee. I know you dealt with the parks.
And so so the folks that's interested in the park committee, it sounds like Mr. Evans is going to be heading the park committee, the park up. Is that true, Mr. Evans?
We don't know.
Okay.
The decision
Well, suggested.
hasn't been made
Okay.
yet, so.
And then I did have a question on the park. It's been brought to my attention, board's attention, that there's issues with the park pond off of Smoke Road still. The buildup that was done on the northern side to try to keep the runoff from the neighbor's property is not sufficient. The pond just filled up more and it's spilling over there. The discussion was prior to create an outlet on the eastern side on Smoke Road to allow the overflow to go into that ditch and away from that neighbor's property. That was never done, either with a depression in that buildup or through a culvert pipe. So I wanted to see if I could deal with Soil and Water and the others as I had before in getting what actually needs to be done there and bring it to the board for final resolution.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead.
I know there was an issue before. From my understanding, I thought Bubba worked with Soil and Water and was able to fix the issue. Now that we're back in rain again, so I guess there was an issue again. Is that true? Can I ask that as the residents here? Hi. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, yeah, there was supposed to have been a fix for you. Understood. And I know Bubba was working with Soil and Water, and we thought it was fixed. We never heard that it wasn't. Now we're hearing it again, so hopefully they'll move on and try to get that rectified for you.
Yeah, we hadn't had these kinds of rains since it was built.
That last time,
Still,
okay.
I mean, they filled in the low point, but it's still the low point.
Okay.
And so now we've got more rain, it's raised it higher.
Okay.
still grandfathered.
And from what I understand, there's supposed to be a cutout, and there never was, so that's what I'll make the look for.
Well, before I got on the board, I was out there one day when soil and water came, and there are quite a few issues there. We think actually some of the ditch and the culvert there is plugged as well. So I think it's going to take a more comprehensive approach, and I think everyone knows we have quite a few stormwater problems here within the township, and I'm happy to say that the county and Soil and Water, they've hired additional staff. They've been out here. I had a meeting with them probably a week and a half ago. They're doing some GIS mapping and other things, so they're taking a much more progressive, proactive approach, which I'm happy to see. So I'm supportive of you meeting with them and see what you can do in the short term over there. So I'll call the question.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Evans, I know you had a request from the fire department, the fire district, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, yeah, just for in the future, I know this one was special, our meetings are after or before our second meeting, so having that on our second meeting agenda, I can provide updates there. But there was a request from the fire district to help clean out, basically they need just a tractor to clean out their burn house at Station 402 on 40 in York. Previously, Harrison Township had done that, and they were thinking, well, since it is in Etna, that maybe Etna can do it. I talked to Bubba. He said that's not a problem. All they basically need is the tractor, lift the bucket up to the second story. The guys will shovel in the debris, and then our guys will dump it, and that's it. So I'd like to get the number one approval of that, conditional on ensuring through the prosecutor that we can provide such assistance.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second for question. When you say assistant, can you explain what you mean by that, Mr. Evans?
I just explained that they want a tractor, one of our guys with the tractor, to put it up to the second story of the burnt house. Their guys will shovel and empty out all the burned out debris, and then our guys with the tractor will just dump it in the dumpster.
Okay, so we're using our equipment.
Our equipment, our manpower for that, but they're,
Thank you.
and that's why I'm asking. Here, they said Harrison Township has done it in the past. They were requesting us. I see that as, beneficial for our area, for the training and that, but I do want to verify that as an entity, we can do that, even though Harrison has done that too.
So this will be the first time that Etna Township's ever been offered to help that?
That I'm aware of, because we haven't had these kind of updates before.
So they would have to go.
I'm bringing everything to the board.
So it would have to go to the prosecutor's office, you're saying, to?
I would like it to just ensure that it is 100% allowed, and, proper due diligence.
Okay.
And from my experience, many times we have shared services or cooperation between different entities. So, but I think it's wise to go to the prosecutor. So I'll call the question.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Now we'll move on to old business, Pike Street project. I'll give an update. I gave a little bit of it earlier, but I wanted to get some clarification on the record as well. We have a check to pay, which will be paid to the Transportation Improvement District for that extra engineering, but what we have not solidified is who's going to pay for the construction and how much. So I've had some initial contact with Mr. Sabatino, but nothing's been finalized on that. One of my concerns, or one of the questions I had at the recent Pike Street meeting was the West Licking Community Improvement Corporation, which you're an appointee on that too, right?
On West Licking?
Yeah, on West Licking, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. They had a meeting which I attended, and they have put into action or have a resolution to dissolve that organization with the remaining funds, which are over $100,000, to pay expenses, legal fees, anything that needs to come to Etna. And what remains then will be, a check will be sent to the Transportation Improvement District. It may be in the $70,000 range. We don't know yet what all of our expenses are. And there has to be an audit done first. And we'll have to, that corporation, it's a separate entity, will have to pay for that as well. Ms. Hanson was a member of that committee, but now that she's not with the township, I don't know how that affects that status. But my point is, I want to make sure that that money that goes to the TID, and it's part of that resolution, that those remaining funds will be used on Pike Street. So I thought maybe those funds could be used to pay for this extra engineering, but given the way our intergovernmental agreement with the TID, I think we should release that check for the engineering, but then make certain that the money coming from the CIC to the TID is actually used on the Pike Street project. It actually says Pike Street or any other Etna Township projects, but I want to make sure that we get those monies, since developers, but also the township contributed money in there for several years to the tune of $10,000 a year. So do you have anything, questions on that? Are you and Ms. McKee good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. The only thing on the TID is there's a lot of, I read in the agreements that 5% they're getting, if we elect it, it should go to our projects. If not, it's just their general fund. I still think we need to look at that because, you know, why they get a fee on everything. So, you know, why pay for other people's stuff, direct it to ours. And then I did have a question on where in the process is the public meeting hearing going to be? Ms. McKee had said before that through Morpsey, you know, there's a public meeting. It seems like we keep getting further engineering. You know, is there any timeline of when there's going to be a public meeting?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that jogged my memory. There was discussion at that meeting and maybe a little confusion because ODOT said, well, you really didn't need to have a public hearing or a public meeting. And I said, well, I think we should because this goes clear back to when you had the open house. And I said, I think we really should have one. So I don't have a specific answer. I need to reach out again to Mr. Lozier and the parties involved. I know Verandis is the engineering firm, and they're moving along doing the extra engineering. And then the other question I asked about aesthetics, and I want to bring in a proposal. I think we need to address the aesthetics of the project as well. It shouldn't just be basic engineering. We talked about the sidewalk, what's the setback, what are the street lights going to look like. As a township, we have an option to select those lights. If it's more than the standard ODOT light, then we have to pay the difference. I've worked on these kinds of projects in the past, so I think aesthetics count. And the other issue, and it's not Pike Street, but it's on Refugee, I want to address the roundabout. Personally, I think it's terrible, all those rocks. It looks like a prison yard in the center of that roundabout. And so I've been informed we can either do a change order, which might cost more,
Lots of money.
or we can pick that up on our own. But I don't think Etna Township should always have to settle for the scraps, so to speak. So that's something we'll bring up later, but I want to put it out there in the public and for the board.
I agree with you. It's not a good sight to see those stones up there. I've looked at Newark, I've looked up New Albany, I've looked up on the other side of Jefferson Township. They put some new roundabouts up there. What I've been told by several engineers that if we decided to put grass there in that roundabout, we would be responsible for cutting that grass. So you would have to work with Pataskala as well as Etna, decide who's gonna cut the grass and when. You know, we kind of had some issues at one time with the road, saying who's gonna cover what and when. So I talked to Bill Lozier a while ago. He didn't agree with the way it looks either. So in order to put a change order that Mr. Burkholder just mentioned, it's a lot of money to do that. So what we could do, maybe find some kind of greenery or flowering that grows so high, maybe to your kneecap, that doesn't get too long, because you don't want to have that time to spend to keep cutting the grass. It's just too much. It's too time consuming, and you would be working back and forth with Pataskala. So if we did something greenery that could grow up, yeah, I would love to see the grass. The grass would be beautiful. I've seen it in other townships. I've seen it in other cities. But it is It would take us to have that relationship with Pataskala, say who's gonna cut it and when.
You are correct about that. Pataskala, it's my understanding Pataskala would have to maintain it, and I think they're not actually in favor of that. So I think it has to be carefully designed to keep it
Yes.
low maintenance, but yet make it more attractive,
Yeah.
Mr. Evans.
Yeah, I just want to say that it is actually Pataskala's responsibility to maintain that roundabout. That's been from the get-go. So I'm not sure why there's any confusion of, you know, we're gonna have to work something out. They're gonna maintain the lights, they're gonna maintain all that stuff. But I think this accentuates why it's important to pay attention to the details in the beginning. That this should have been worked out before, the questions asked, why? I mean, early on in this Refugee Road project, they were using a mortgage calculator instead of a bond calculator, and the payments were way off. On Pike Street, it came out that the bike path was gonna just be an asphalt path. So you're gonna have concrete, the road, just an asphalt path and that. So I think we gotta pay attention to the details and make sure that we're not paying to fix things, paying for things twice, and get these things early on, because in this whole process, that could have been done properly in the roundabout, and been part of the whole bond process at much lower cost. So I think that's where, I think now we have the sharing of the information on the board, and we're gonna be paying attention to these details, but we've got a lot of catching up to do.
And I think it's good that we take a little bit of time here. We want to keep the meeting moving along, but we want the residents to know these are the kinds of issues that we're working on, and they're going to take some time. But we are addressing them. We're putting them out there in the public, and we're going to continue to work on them. That's all I have on Pike.
Well, I got one more other thing,
Go ahead.
please, Chair.
Yes.
You mentioned that money, there's $80,000 left on that board that we resolved, and you sat in the meeting that day, and you recorded it. So we wanted to make it clear, we wanted the $80,000 to go to TID, but we also wanted that money to go to the Pike Street project. We didn't just want to give it the money and they do whatever they want to do with it. We would like to see it go towards the Pike Street. And there was some additional fees that were paid out, the legal fees.
Right.
And some other things, and it ended up, we're at $80,000. So that's what we wanted to do with that money.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that, because I wasn't sure. Do we know how soon that check can be written in? I mean, do we know who's contacting the auditor?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Our administrator was handling everything, and she's no longer with the township, so things are kind of in limbo.
Well, I also wanted to go on the record that Mr. Carlisle came and picked up the checkbook and the file on the CIC.
I wasn't here to know.
Well, we have a receipt for it. Our secretary did her job well, and it is a separate entity, but and that had the resolution, and you are correct. It said Pike Street or
Yes.
other Etna Township projects. So I agree with you. I think it should go to Pike Street, but I don't know. That's the only thing I want to know is how long is it going to take before that money actually flows,
Right,
yeah.
correct.
And I don't expect you to have the answer, because I don't know that anyone does.
And then you mentioned also, Chair, that you mentioned about the meeting. Well, it was required under the federal law that we had to follow these protocols to have the meetings with
Right.
the residents. It wasn't something we as the board that came up with. It came from Mr. Lozier, and
I know.
Mr. Lozier got it from the Middle Ohio Regional Planning Commission.
Yes.
Which it regulates from the federal and down to them. I have the email to prove that what we have to do in order to maintain that 1.3 million, I believe, for the Pike Street project, the grant money that we got.
Well, feel free to distribute that to the full board then, because they had some confusion at that meeting, but I said it was just good policy to have a open house on that project like most
Yes.
ODOT, so.
Yeah, I'll find the emails. It's a
Okay.
couple, it's about a year and a half old, but I'll look.
That's fine, and if you can't, I mean, we can
Yeah.
look into it, but that's all I have on Pike Street.
Thank you.
Wagram, I'll be talking about that later, because we have a motion later on, so to keep things moving along. The wind waste first amendment to the contract, Mr. Evans, you've been dealing with this, correct?
Well, I've been dealing with the wind waste representative with the whole payments and a lot of issues with that. We do need to have an amendment to the contract. I learned that instead of us creating the contract, Ms. Hanson had them create the contract, which I'm not sure why, but they did send a draft, so that needs to be reviewed by the prosecutor, and we need to move forward to get that executed. So again, I think that's part of the, do Do I have that in there?
Yeah, I think you do, but can we go ahead and just,
No, I don't have that.
you want a motion now to go ahead and be the contact
Well,
and follow
yeah.
up on that?
Yeah, I'll motion that myself to deal with wind waste regarding the First Amendment to the contract.
I'll second that. Discussion?
Discussion, yeah, I noticed the email that we sent, that he said he wanted to deal with it in an email.
Right.
So it was kind of like discussion before the meeting, which is a no-no.
No.
But.
No,
I
was
will
it
say-
that?
Yes, it was.
We can share information.
I will,
Hold on, let me clarify something. When we construct the agenda, all trustees have an opportunity to send things and what business they want us to take care of here at the township meeting. So there wasn't any discussion on that, but given the fact that Mr. Evans has put a lot of time and detail into that, that's why it's on the agenda. So when I put the agenda, both trustees plus the fiscal officer, this isn't just the trustees' agenda, plus the fiscal officer have an opportunity to submit so we can get things on the agenda and take care of business. So I'm supportive of it because this is something we have to get done. It runs out, what, March 31st?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, he
and-
said he would work well with them, and I agree.
Okay,
And that's,
good.
that makes sense.
so I'll call the question, please. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Now, the next issue is the security system. So I had contact with SOS today. I've not had an opportunity for him to retrieve some of the public records requested information off of the server, but I'll follow up with that. And I also had a conversation with state security, and I'm going to try to meet with him this next week since we have the OTA conference this week. So I know we had some strict deadlines on this, but given the unforeseen circumstances of staff departure, I am following up on this, and the server is secure, and the key box is secure, and we do take security serious, and there has been, talk about the passwords. So there's a lot of work, in my opinion, that still needs to be done on this, but I wanted the board to know that I did follow up on this, and it hasn't fallen into the black hole or the abyss.
Can I request of the chair regarding the security system to have SOS make a copy of what's on there and simply plug in the system so we have an active security system here in the meantime? Because again, I don't feel safe coming in here without being documented, and I believe we owe a duty to protect the assets of this township. It's as simple as plugging it back in this operation.
I will check with Mr. Blevins since he was replaced with a different company, but I'll be more than happy to ask that question and report back to the board. Go ahead.
Burkholder said
Yes.
Mr. Blivers no longer has his company?
Pardon?
What did you say about?
Well, he no longer has the service here. It states, no, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. So thanks for clarifying.
No, you're fine, I wasn't sure.
Okay. New business, and by the way, at 7:30, we're going to have a executive session. I put it later in the agenda so that you wouldn't have to wait through that executive session at the beginning, but we will have a break there because I've got it on the agenda at 7:30.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, the attorney indicated he's stuck in a dead stop traffic. He'll be late. So I say we just
That's
continue
fine.
until he comes.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So, Mr. Burkholder, as you were mentioning about security.
Yes.
You mentioned SOS.
Yes.
Just to make it clear, because the cameras that were put in this township were from China. And that was another thing that I had asked him to remove them and give us our money back, because they were from China. And I sent him several emails, and I sent the information over to the prosecutor, and to no avail. We didn't want our money back for his labor, but we wanted the money back for the cameras, because they are cameras, these cameras in here are from China, and we don't want them in here. This is an entity that does not fit well, that we should have China cameras in here. So I want to make that clear.
Very good. I appreciate that clarification. New business, cemetery. There's been a request to waive attorney-client privilege regarding maintenance of the cemetery.
Yes, I had sent in to the prosecutor, and I think I provided that opinion email to everybody. I'd just like to waive that privilege so that we can discuss it.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to waive the attorney-client privilege regarding the recommendation by the prosecutor dated December 18th, their legal analysis in conclusion.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second, discussion? Ms. McKee?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I'm looking for this document for, where the attorney-client privilege was waived from the prosecutor's office, asking at least, because the board has to make that decision.
That's correct. And I have no,
I have it here.
I have no problem waiving. It's not some
But
top
I'm-
secret thing.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out the reasoning behind it.
Well, so that we can discuss publicly what we should do with the cemetery. We can't have a discussion about the cemetery without referencing their legal analysis and conclusion.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking that is because you, last month in January, had a board with all these things from the cemetery posted up there. Where you were, yeah, don't you remember that, Mr. Evans? You had a board up there with all the, and you were complaining about what needed to happen.
Ms. McKee, I posted legal analysis I did myself in my due diligence and the laws and opinions I found from other jurisdictions. I did not post what our prosecutor stated.
I
Okay.
didn't say you posted what the prosecutor said, Mr. Evans. I was just trying to understand.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking a question, that's all.
Okay, but as the chair, let's kind of stay on point with this. I know there's been a lot of talk about the maintenance of the cemetery, and I agree, and I've been out to the cemeteries and looked at them, and when I was a trustee 20 years ago, we put up a new fence on the cemetery on 40. But rather than get into all the details, I know you've done some research, Mr. Evans, so I am certainly supportive of better maintaining our cemeteries, but I think I don't think we need to hash it all out tonight. What I think we need is some proposals. I think the first order of business, though, is to get the fence corrected. And Mr. Evans, you might want to comment on that. I know
Okay.
you've probably done more research than.
Well, I think that'll go probably later in the division of duties, but
Okay.
I think it's important that, number one, like I said, we deal, because the fences and everything, deal with their opinion and what should be done. So are we taking a vote on releasing this?
Yes, we can. So I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Okay. So that's released. We have it. We can put this on a future agenda with recommendations or proposals or comments
Right.
of what you want to see done.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Social media account for the township, Mr. Evans, you asked that this be on the agenda?
Yes, I think it's important that we reach residents better.
Well, is this discussion only?
Well, no, I'm moving to, if you'd like to make a motion, I move to, where was my stuff? Provided the motion, is it still in here? All right, motion to create, and this has been provided to the board, motion to create social media account for the township on Facebook to distribute township information according to the following. There's the 6 points, which is the name of the page, no opinion shall be permitted, commenting shall be turned off if possible, the disclaimer section is listed, following not only the recommendations there, but our employee handbook, that myself as designee of the content manager, and the content manager would be the Chief Public Relations Officer, which is currently Mr. Burkholder, shall be authorized to create the page and post as directed by the Communications Public Relations Officer, and to adopt the social media guidelines dated 2/6 that were reworked from Liberty Township's social media guidelines.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead, Ms. McKee.
Right now, we are in a situation here in the township where we're short-staffed. Again, I will piggyback off of one of the residents that stood up back, made it clear, and I agree. Why would we make a trustee to run a social media page? To me, I don't think that should be appropriate. Second of all, right now, I don't think we should even get into that. It opens up a lot of cans of worms right now. But there's so much stuff that we need to resolve. And right now, with being short-staffed, that's the least worry is social media right now. That's my opinion.
Okay. What I will say to that is, just as the comprehensive plan meeting, I've been told that there was a small handful of people there. The information is not getting out to people. Just with the BZA rezoning, the legal requirement was 300, I believe it's 300 feet from the property line, which is, I think, just past the first resident's driveway, and maybe touches a couple people across the street, but obviously was of great importance to many people. So this is not about opinions. This is not about commentary. This is simply about putting, we have a meeting, period. These are where you get your documents. This is movie night. This is, and again, no commenting, no editorializing, no any of that. It's pure information approved by the board on this. And again, it's about communication, because there's a lot of people that didn't know. And if it wasn't for one of the residents' outreach, a lot of them wouldn't know. And I think it's the duty of the township to provide this information. Even right now, we're at a critical stage with everything going on, and I think the comprehensive plan is one of the largest parts of it, and we're not getting people involved. If you look up in Union Township and who showed up there, it was a great number. And we need to do better. And this is just providing, it's just like the email blast, it's just, you know, that kind of stuff. The BZA meeting, the notice was sent out to the residents, but the agenda and everything wasn't posted until I think 3 days before the meeting. And I think that we can do much better of just communicating to the residents. And again, I believe the comments, some jurisdictions have the comments off, so you don't even have to worry about people doing the commenting. And we actually have in our handbook guide, it already allows this and has the guidelines which are integrated into this.
That's true.
And once you know, we have more staff coming on, they can handle it. But I'm very familiar with Facebook. I can set up the page and that's it. And then we can go forward doing the comprehensive plan. We want people here for the comprehensive plan, and what better way to do it?
Well, okay, I'll weigh in on the topic as well. Facebook is a powerful tool, and I'm supportive at some time in the future of implementing that. But two things I want the public to know. One, you can get on the listserv, so you will be notified anytime there's a meeting or an agenda goes out. And we have a number of people, I don't know how many, but we have a number of people on that already, and that's one way. And the website, and I agree with you, Mr. Evans, that maybe Facebook is visited more than the website. But I think residents, if you want to know, you can either call the township, come to a meeting, or get on the website. And the website has a lot more information. But this is part of the transformation here in Etna Township. We need to update our website. It's antiquated. It needs to be improved, and we can put a lot more information on the website. Both of your points are well taken, and I actually concur with you, Ms. McKee. Facebook has been weaponized against all of us in this community, and I've had to deal with this in other communities, so I have some experience. So I'll be honest, I am not going to support this at this time, and I'm not even I'm going to vote no. And I'm not even going to table it. Now, am I willing to revisit it? Absolutely. But, and I agree, I think it needs to be a neutral party. And my last comment is, we don't have the bandwidth with our staff to even begin to do this. We have to prioritize the projects, and a lot of them have to do with development and policies, and you are correct, Mr. Evans, I'm not against it, but we are biting off more than we can chew, and I'm more than happy to come in here and help out. I know my colleagues are as well, but we've got some more important things right now, and I'm afraid this is going to take even more time away. And I'll say one thing, by coming into the office, and you probably know this, Ms. McKee, it takes an awful lot of time to put together not only these packets, but the BZA, the Planning Commission. There are a lot of moving parts, and it takes a lot of time to get it done correctly. So I compliment our employees for doing that. It seems simple, you know, well, we got a project, let's get that done, but it's a lot harder. So again, I don't want to beat it to death, but are there any other comments from my colleagues? I do think we do need to do a better job communicating, but I think we have to, I don't think we're capable of doing this effectively at this time.
I would just say I think we are, because this is just, it's a minor point. It's making a post and putting it up there when the information is. And honestly, politically, it hurts me, because right now people go to my web page, my page, to get all the information because I do it. If it was the non-editorialized township, that would just be the information. I wouldn't have to. So politically, it would hurt me. I'm trying to do what's best for the township, but I think getting the residents the information is the key. For over 2 years, I've recorded and posted the meetings. I'm still doing it because we can't do it now. So I think it's a mistake, but I mean, obviously we'll do whatever the board does, and I'll continue to do what I can.
Well, we appreciate the homework, but we're still trying to figure out the streaming now because there have been some glitches since we've had some staff leave. So that's a priority. Mr. Evans has been helping with that, but we'll talk about that later in another item we have here to explain. So with that, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
No.
Ms. McKee?
No.
Okay, the farm lease. This is, I'll make a motion to discuss the farm lease. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion, yes, sir.
Okay, any?
Do we need a motion to discuss?
Roll call, please. Well, you normally have motions so that you know exactly what you're talking about. So roll call on the motion to discuss discussion.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments? I think we have some individuals that would like to speak to this tonight.
Oh, yeah, Kevin, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what's going on, so, you know.
Did you want to speak to the?
I
just had some answers if you had questions.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Evans?
I just think that it's important that we, I would think we would want to put it out to bid. I think the last farm lease was below rate from everybody I've talked to at that time and then after. It's our fiduciary responsibility to I think get the fair compensation. The only way to do it is to put it out to bid. And I think the earlier we do it, the better for the farmers. I'm not sure what their timetable is on that. So I would actually would like to see that it be put out to bid.
I want to, and I want the public to know and the record and my colleagues to know, I did talk to Charles Hagee today. He said he was interested in leasing it. He couldn't make the meeting here tonight, but I told him that I would keep my colleagues informed that he was interested in farming that property as well. But I also had a conversation with Mr. Keller, and I think he pointed out some facts that I wasn't aware of before. And if you'd like to come to the podium and maybe answer some of those questions regarding the rate, I think access to the property, and then also the assistance you provided on the CAUV, which needs to be filed, I believe, by March 31st.
March 1st.
March 1st.
Real quick, Mr. President, a lot of us are wondering what property you're referring to right now. We don't know.
The park property.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you. You have the floor, sir. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah.
You there? Okay.
My name's Kevin Keller, and represent tonight Keller Enterprises Family Farm. My father and I and family, we've been working with the property in question for multiple years now. It's actually a coming together of 3 or 4 different properties, pieces, parts of that. So again, you weren't aware, I did bring some information. I didn't know how to get it to you. Do you want the papers I brought for you?
Yeah, sure, you can, why don't you give them?
Right.
That's the picture, which actually doesn't just.
Right. Okay.
Would you like to look at this?
I know I have all that. I'm very aware of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I guess my point was just, I was reached out to by Mr. Burkholder the other day in question about the rent agreement and the pricing and so forth. As you see in the pages there, the different pieces, there's small chunks of a parcel that was on the north side that you guys got around those ponds that you referenced earlier. And there's literally nothing left to tillable land, about 5 acres. We try to keep that in farmland to keep your CAUB evaluation correct. Because as long as you are still renting this land, you'll be taxed on it. Now, once you choose to make it a park, which is indefinitely what you're going to do, not-for-profit comes into play, and your taxes will be reduced. But our goal was just to kind of help keep that in farming. It's not very productive, and obviously we know the ins and outs of where you're headed. It's not going to be farmed forever. So, be that as it may, it's not the highest rent value, but we feel it was just compensating for what we were able to get off the ground. We can't put the fertility out there, can't do the practices that we want to do, that we would do on a larger scale if we had a 5-year, 3-year, potential opportunity on the property.
Yeah, can you explain, I was involved in farming, I grew up on a family farm, but that these kinds of improvements, whether it's tiling or fertilizer and various chemicals, you build it up over time, and that's an investment. So it's hard to make that kind of investment plus a higher per acre rent when you know that eventually you're not going to be farming and it's going to be turned into a park.
Yes, sir. And to your point, I think you actually mentioned it on the ponds, and one of your residents was having an issue with some overflow on the ponds and so forth. The ditch that water goes down to would be your only access to that one piece of property, and there's not a proper culvert there. So in an effort to mitigate his issue and then maybe also create access, you could be looking at an extensive project to gain access from that road. We have access from Route 40 through the farm lease that we have with the previous owner on the frontage. So we access through existing driveways and don't have to drive through any of the ditches or any of the crossings that have issues. Same way as you come around to the other property previously owned by JVW, we've got access through another property. We can come in on existing driveways, no necessary construction or anything to be done to be able to come in off the frontages that you have. So currently, each one of your properties has very specific locations that allow it to be split off. But until the whole project comes together, you don't have real good access.
I know that was another concern, which you were probably aware, Ms. McKee, the access.
That's right.
One of the other issues was the, and I think you brought it up, Mr. Evans, was the compensation, what was going to, when that transferred, that some of it hasn't transferred yet, so apparently the agreement was that those cash rents would be paid to the owner, correct?
Yes, for 21, we paid everything to the owners. 22, we paid everything to the owners. And then in 23, we actually, and there was a sheet in that I gave you that shows in 23 the rent was paid to the Etna Township. In 22, we negotiated that agreement with the previous owners and paid that rent to them. So I don't know if when you purchased the land, if that was discussed at all in your negotiations with the previous owners. But we wrote our check to those people. So that went with the previous owner.
Mr. Evans, you have some
So
more?
I believe on the contract that we were supposed to get any proceeds, and there was supposed to be no lease on the property, and that's one of the things that I think the prosecutor needs to deal with, because I actually think the 2022 should have come to us because it was in escrow at that time. And from my reading is they promised there was no leases, no tenants, so for them to put a lease on it, that probably should come to us. But so that should go to the prosecutor, I think, because I think we're looking at $7,000, but The one question I did have is his proposed leases is a 3-year lease. What time frame are we gonna be working on this park?
That 3-year lease was null and void, sir. We proposed that as a way to work out of maybe a higher offering, so we could
Okay.
have some long-term. And then you'll notice that the contract that was actually signed and utilized, I think it went to Ms. Hanson at the time, that maybe had an outside person that she worked with, rewrote some of the language, and we took it to a 1-year, year-by-year lease. And in that regard, that's when we also kind of had to pull back where we wanted to be at on pricing, because, for instance, I can't put any tile in to fix a drainage issue.
If you're just in there a year, you're
Yes,
not
sir.
gonna.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you have
sir.
5 years, you can put
Absolutely,
more for
sir.
a
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
understand that.
That's what I just wanted to make sure you understood. Did you see the paper, sir, on the split of how the farms came together?
Yeah, I've seen it
Okay.
before when we're, fiscal officer and I were trying to
Okay.
work on a CAUV.
Very
before
good,
this.
very good. I just want to make sure you knew, so in your reference to the JBW properties and things like that, you know, I hope that you're not throwing that to me that I should have paid you money. I paid to the
No,
previous
that's outside
owner.
you.
Okay.
It's, we
Very
have to
good,
deal with
very
the
good.
sellers.
Just want to make sure you were satisfied with what we've done.
Yeah, because I believe Ms. Hanson said that her research into it was she just asked you, and you said, well, I was supposed to pay it to them.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
not, I don't think due diligence on our part is.
I don't believe your property transferred on the auditor's site until the end of August.
Yep.
So we had already paid our rent, so yeah, I don't know if you had in there, like, for instance, you talk about escrow, like the Langle property, a lot of people bring that up. I still rent that from the Langle family, because
Right.
that's not,
But I think that's a different agreement.
Okay.
It's totally, I'm going by what
Just as long
that
as we're
agreement
talking
is.
about the
It
Langle
has nothing to do
agreement
with
or
you,
anything.
nothing, you paid.
Very good.
It's out of your hands, I
Yep,
think
very
it's
good.
with the developer.
Just want to answer questions if you have.
Do you think you can get an answer from the prosecutor by our next meeting if you have questions for the prosecutor?
Oh, I could. I brought this up before with them, and I think they just needed to go ahead to really go through. But yeah, if you want me to bring that, because I actually have that, I added that to number 6 on the prosecutor request approval for the proceeds.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Keller because I think a lot of these details made it much more clarifying as to why the price was what it was. And so,
And if you have any questions, feel free to call me. I think you got my number and you can share it with you. So you guys can call me if we want to go over the accesses and things. Because like you said, as we get closer and closer to time, if we're going to divide it all back up, there's going to be some surveying needs done. Because some of these are arbitrary lines, you know, that this part's here and this part's here. And so we'll need some time to make those necessary and then get your accesses figured out, you know, if another farmer's going to be entering and so forth. So appreciate your consideration.
All right, thank you.
thank you very much. Okay. So the CAUV is something we're going to be probably working with Mr. Keller on that to get that timely filed. Saved us $24,000 of taxes per year. Thank you.
That is going, I mean, if we just let it sit as a parkland, we pay 0, but we're getting 0 income too.
Right.
I think our expenses for the real estate is like 4,000. No, go ahead.
If you don't have a developed park that's open to the public, not for profit, it would actually still be taxed. So you would actually revert back to commercial and you'd actually go up to
Would we?
24,000. So you'd be, whatever you paid plus the 24,000 savings, you see what I'm saying? You'd be taxed at full commercial value.
Are we paying tax on the 310 properties? Are we paying tax on that property? I didn't think we were.
I don't
On
know.
the 310 property? The two lots on
Those
310?
lots?
Should be able to answer.
Well, let's,
But
Let's
I can
look into
research that,
that.
but as part of the CAUV, Ms. McKee did that last time. Does the board want to vote that she handle that submission this time?
I don't know, do you want to do that, Ms. McKee, or do you want me to work with
I
Mr.?
was the president at the time of the board, and if you want it, since you are now, I would like to see you continue to do that.
Okay, I just want to give you that, but I'm fine with that.
The only thing I'd say is, Mr. President, you've got a lot on your plate dealing with everything else.
I agree.
I've taken on quite a bit. I think it'd be fair to have some duties on Ms. McKee, and since she dealt with this last time, I think it would be more beneficial to allow you to deal with all the other items we're dealing with.
You willing to do that?
Well, I have no problem because I did work with Kevin before and it worked out well. I just don't want to have trustees calling down to the Farm Bureau and dealing with some of our
That's fine.
employees that
Yeah.
we don't want that to happen.
That's right. And you,
Yeah.
okay, then,
So I can work with that. That'd be fine.
very good.
All right, so do you want to motion it?
Yep.
I move to, I don't know how you want to put it, direct Trustee McKee to file the CAUV reports that are due March 1st, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I take it you'll work with Mr. Keller? as
Yep.
you did
Oh,
before?
yeah.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And thank you for
Oh, absolutely.
taking on that task. Okay, this next,
Excuse me, sir, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I'm not involved if I'm not leasing the property, just so you know.
Okay,
Right.
What's
So
done, is
you're
done for
telling
last
me,
year.
that's
Right,
right, I will
right.
be working with Mr. Hagee now.
Well, I don't.
Or whoever
that's-
bids the bid.
No, well,
That's what that would
Say.
be. So that's a
I
change.
appreciate it.
honestly, that should be able to be done through the USC. It doesn't need this, the farmer, I don't think has a duty to do that.
Very good. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, but I think you get all that
Item-
through.
If you need any help, Ms. McKee, just let us know.
It changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. It changed. So we'll figure it out.
Very
But
good.
I was working with you before on the other property. I mean, on the farm, and we got it done, so it's not a problem. But we'll figure it out.
Very
It's a
good.
different thing, because you're talking about putting it out for bid now. which is
Well,
different.
we haven't decided yet, but
Yeah.
we have to make a decision at the next meeting.
Right.
The next item, the chair will entertain a motion.
Which one? Motion to approve the transfer of T-Mobile business account to a government account.
Second. Discussion?
Yeah, I had trying to get access so that our fiscal officer can pay the bills and all that stuff. I spoke to their representative who informed me that Ms. Hanson was in the process of moving it over from a business account that was set up by Ms. McKee to a government account as it should have been. So I had asked them to let me know when that was completed and to provide myself and our fiscal officer and Mr. Burkholder access to that so we can at least have access to the account. So they did do that. They provided the fees, which was previously sent to Ms. Hanson, which are 44% lower, and also comes with a free phone if you want a iPhone, Mr. Burkholder. So I guess with it being on the agenda, you're just asking for to officially accept the transfer and move forward with the government account.
And will Ms. McKee have access as well?
It is up to the board. The only reason I gave myself access was to get it because Ms. McKee didn't comply with the board's January 2nd directive to provide the fiscal officer
I understand.
the password. So,
But we're not gonna,
no, but I'm
I
explaining the process.
understand, but we're not gonna relitigate. First of all, two things. It should have been a government account to begin with, but I'm not making any accusations. So we got it to the government account, but you should have brought it to the board first, Mr. Evans. So that's the problem I have. But the problem is now solved. So yes, Ms. McKee should have access to the account as well. Because this cell phone game is,
Gotta stop.
I would agree. It can't go back and forth. So do you have anything else you want to say?
Please, yes. Because I'm transparent, and I want to be clear. And it's concerning to me. He mentioned the fiscal officer could not pay the bill online. She's a fiscal officer. She's been in this position almost 2 years. And she could not go to T-Mobile.com. Literally, 3 steps here. T-Mobile.com, pay bill, put the phone number in.
Okay.
No, I want to be clear because This has to be
I-
out because there's, no, Mr. Burkholder, I'm gonna have to say my piece. I'm a trustee.
Go ahead and
Like
say
you
it.
are and like Mr. Evans, and I'm gonna say what I have to say.
You're relitigating it.
No, I'm not.
I'll
I'm
give
not,
you,
but I wanna be
I'll give
clear.
you, I'll give you some latitude, but
No.
Say
You're
it
gonna be
quickly.
clear. So Mark, you talked about a, government agreement. Here it is, right here. It was sent out back on December 12th.
good.
2022. So it is a government account. And then I just got an email Saturday that Mr. Burkholder and Mr. Evans had put themselves on the account without us negotiating this here at the board. So
I
that's
did-
disturbing.
I
You didn't
did,
know about it?
I did not put myself
Okay.
on the account.
That's fine, Mr. Burkholder.
So
but-
if you
but-
want clarity, I'll give
Yeah.
you clarity. I actually, independent of Mr. Evans, was looking to bring to the board to switch the account from T-Mobile to Verizon because they have a government account. And that's why I contacted Verizon independently of Mr. Evans. I didn't know that he had changed the
Yeah.
account.
Yeah, they had your name on there and Mr. Evans' name on it.
Okay, and that's,
Here's
why I've said that that was not the proper procedure.
Here's an email here.
Okay, fine.
From
Now,
February 3rd,
I'm gonna-
Saturday.
I'm gonna-
It's
I'm
like-
gonna-
Excuse me, let me just finish this. That somebody requested a transfer of devices to T-Mobile. So to me, that's not being transparent.
That wasn't
If
me.
we want to do things, we need to bring it to the board and be transparent. So that's all I'm just trying to.
that's why I sent out the proposal from Verizon to you and Mr.
Came on the
Evans.
same day as we got that. And then today, we get a bill that went to the old township building over there.
Yeah, I saw
We haven't
that.
been over there in
The secretary
20
pointed,
years.
the secretary
What was that?
pointed that out to me, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
call the
that's
question.
interesting, isn't it?
Mr. Evans? Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Well, my, I got that done. AHS Etna grant funding for public road discussion. Is there a motion to discuss this issue?
Yes, I'll make a motion
I'll
to,
second. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I already said what it was, so I'll just get a second there. Well, at least we're laughing a little bit.
is Ms. Patrick, well, Patrick's here. You want
Yeah, let's continue, Patrick.
to,
Where did we stop, Mr. Burkholder?
recess for,
Yes.
or not recess, but go into executive session?
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll move to go into executive session per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G3, conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And we will have all three trustees and Patrick Kaysen with Reminger in that executive session as well. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
So at 7:47, 7:47, we will go into executive session.
All in favor?
Is there a motion to come out of the executive session at 8:23 PM?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes. And the time?
8:23. Now we're back in session. The next item is item F under new business, AHS Etna grant funding for public road discussion. You asked that this be on the agenda, Mr. Evans.
Yes, there's been, I guess I'll make a motion to, that I work with the prosecutor regarding this request for funding from the 629 grant.
Second discussion.
Off second for discussion. There was a email. We had worked with Briggs' office with Jen as well as Julie Donnan.
Right.
And back on September 29th, they made a decision in regards to that. And we are not obligated to give the money to the TPA. I'm sorry, not TPA.
It is TPA.
Yeah, it is
Yes.
TPA. Okay, sorry. We're not obligated to give $100,000. There was no contract in place for that money. So, with that being said, we should not just decide that let's go ahead and give them that $100,000. Now, you will probably get an email from Amy, the prosecutor's office. She's not going to weigh in on it and come with an opinion because we spent money with Brochus and Griggs, Johnson and Griggs, to have them look over it, and they looked over it and they said we do not in any way owe this $100,000 to TPA. There was never a contract written, and we're not obligated. And because we can't just decide as a board to say we're just going to give this $100,000 in good faith to this this grant money over to TPA, because for one, we'll be audited. For two, it's not a contract, so we can't just decide to do that.
Mr. Evans, you have some?
Yes, since the time where I guess it was at Brochus and Griggs, there's been a formal request by TPA, the developer, for the reimbursement of this $10,000 or $100,000 629 grant. I had spoken to Fred Vogel, who's with the Ohio Department of Transportation, who deals with 629s, and it is of his opinion that this was what the purpose was for. There was no standard agreement because Mr. Carlisle at the time did not have an agreement like all the other 629 grants. So I believe that we need to have do proper due diligence, evaluate the request for payment, and if need be, create an agreement with the developer. Typically, 5% is withheld for our administrative costs, legal expenses and such. So $95,000 possibly would go to them. But this grant was for the road construction, building and that. I don't see where it would be proper that we apply for the grant. We had no expenses and we just keep the money. So that's what I want to make sure. Talk with the prosecutor, and if need be, I guess possibly would have to go to Bricker and Graydon on this matter, Mr. President.
So you're talking about spending more money when we already got an opinion from a law firm that we hired. So now you want to send it to another law firm. I can forward you this email.
Well, that, I'd like to, I've not seen the email from the law firm, so I think we need to see that. But I see your point, and at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we do this right.
Legally.
And I know that Fred, so have you seen the opinion from?
I don't believe I have. Maybe I did. A lot was not shared, but maybe that's one of the records that we can get from Brochus and Griggs. But I think even with that opinion, with the new request, and they laid it out in what they believe is legal terms of why it should be provided to them, I think at minimum that would have to be reevaluated.
Okay.
So I don't know if you, Mr. President, want to handle that, or if you want me to.
Well, you're much more familiar with 629, but so let's, Ms. McKee, if you would please give Mr. Evans and myself a copy of that opinion from Brochus and Griggs. I am supportive, though, of reevaluating that decision. So at this time, you recommend what? A motion to go to the prosecutor first?
To the prosecutor, or if they are not comfortable, because I know sometimes on the economic development side of things, they're not. I would prefer the prosecutor because it's pretty costly. And then if they can't, go to Bricker and Graydon.
Is there a deadline on this?
No, they just request it as soon as possible. I'm not sure. Typically, agreements that we have, there's a deadline for after they officially submit it. Again, I'm not even sure on this because there is no agreement with this one. And I've raised that issue since 2022.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to make you gonna make a motion to make yourself the contact person with the prosecutor once we get the opinion from.
Ms. McKee, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure I forward that over to you first
Okay.
thing in the morning.
That's already the motion. There's a motion on the floor, it was seconded.
What was to discuss, right?
Yeah.
No, it was to
To work
with the prosecutor and
Thank you.
dealing with this.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, now, you know the prosecutor that was a part of that list she sent us,
Right,
and that was one of those on there.
okay.
So she was.
She was
waiting for-
requesting a status of
Yes.
what we want her to do, and so that's why I'll talk to her.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Item G. I'll make a motion to appoint Mark Evans as contact person for health insurance renewal. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. McKee. Discussion? I had talked to Frank Harmon, and he said renewal was coming up, and so we thought that maybe Mr. Evans would be willing to meet with Mr. Harmon and go over some of the details, because they like to have a proposal first.
Yeah.
And present that information to the full board, obviously, but.
Correct, and I do have, I've had concerns about our coverage. I've had, especially, I'm on the fire board now and part of the personnel committee, and we're actually meeting Thursday, dealing with a lot of health insurance issues there. So I'm getting very familiar with this, but one of the concerns is there are actually policies where we don't have to pay out of pocket and then be reimbursed by Mr. Harmon.
Right.
Because I do think it is a great burden on some of the employees and, maybe even possibly the officials to make up that difference and wait for reimbursement, because I know sometimes it could be a lengthy process. So I'd more than be happy to speak with Mr. Harmon and then possibly even look at possible other brokers.
Any further discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll make a motion to the Grove-Licking County contract renewal. I'll make a motion to approve that renewal. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yes. Right now, we don't have a seat at the table or anyone on the board for Grow. Not sure if we're going to get that opportunity. So far, since I've been a trustee, I have not seen anything that Grove-Licking County has actually done for us as a township. One thing I can say that I did do was they had a renewal that was 90-day renewal, and we stopped it. We did the contract. Didn't have a contract with them for a while, and we voted as a board to give it an opportunity again to get back on there since all this stuff was happening with Intel. Well, I just found, well, I didn't find this out recently, but a while ago I found out that they were claiming the Uline contract. They had nothing to do with Uline. We as a township did that on our own. And then the second thing was Ryder. They claimed Ryder. They did not do the Ryder contract. We as a township did that on our own through our zoning and the board. So that was misleading, and that kind of made me feel a certain way because of the fact that they're getting credit for something they did not do. And it's, so that's my feeling on that, so.
Well, I do appreciate some of that background. There's a lot of things that, I wasn't exactly sure what they did or didn't do. I will say, I think it's advantageous to be part of that, but I agree. I think there needs to be better communication between Grove-Licking County and Etna Township to keep us, what are you working on? What are the projects? A lot of economic development projects have to go into executive session, so I too was critical of, I guess, that communication channel. But we do not have expertise in-house when it comes to economic development. So it's $15,000 a year, which is why I reached out. I had a meeting with Grove-Licking County just to talk about what's going on. And I asked them, I said, do you still want us? And they said, yeah, we still want you. Because they take a lot of calls from site selectors and everything on Etna Township. But I do want to see our board be kept apprised of those things that are happening out here, so we're not caught flat-footed, so. Anything else, Mr. Evans?
Yes, just briefly. I think Gros-Licking County can greatly serve us, but it's like a gym membership. You can buy a membership, but if you don't use it, it's not going to benefit you. It's the same thing here. There's been no work with them. There's been no, there's projects sent out all the time. Does this meet, something that would interest you in your community? And there's no pursuit of it. As far as Uline and the others, the township did not pursue those. They went through the standard process, but this is about pursuing good development that benefits the community and our residents. So $15,000 is, I think, a pittance compared to if you hired somebody like Pataskala does the Montrose Group. It's much more expensive. So I think we should continue this, but we should actively use it. The only question I have is on the term, that it should begin on the date last executed below. When does the current term end? Are we overlapping or are we outside the agreement?
Did you get the revised with the changes that came in?
Yeah, it still had the effective date below and continue for 1 year unless terminated. I just think that, I just want to make sure that we don't have another month on the term we already paid.
I
and we're starting over.
I think we can correct that administratively with them.
I think originally it's January, December. I think we got last year, we delayed it because of the changes to the contract.
Right.
So I think it's supposed to be January to December.
But it was delayed, I think, until March or so, but then was it effective March to March?
Well,
And I just want to make sure we're not double paying.
Then put that proviso as part of the motion that we correct that and that there's no overlap.
Correct.
But it's 15,000 now for some reason.
Well,
It was 15 before.
we'll get an invoice. We'll get an invoice. Roll call, please.
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder,
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Yes.
Sorry.
And thank both of you for, kind of getting me up to speed on what's taken place in the past and everything. The Ohio Health Consortium Township Representative, Ms. Hanson was that representative, and that has now changed, so we need a representative. I've not been trained, I don't know if...
Well, I would motion to appoint Ms. McKee as the township representative for Ohio Health Consortium to divvy up the duties a little bit. And everybody else that would be new to, Mr. Johnson previously did it. And so I think that would make sense.
I'll second that motion. Discussion?
Yeah, I think Mr. Johnson did it because of the fact that, excuse me, he was on the fire board. It kind of went hand in hand. So that's why he was that person. He was involved in
Are you
that.
willing to do it?
Well, it's not about me wanting to do it. It's about us having an administrator that would be doing that along with the person that's over the roads. Who's over the roads now?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because since back at our reorganization meeting, the motion was made for me to be the day-to-day supervisor of the township administrator. So by default, I am now the day-to-day supervisor of our employees. We're going to address that a little bit later and try to divvy some of these things up, but I'm all for, I think it should be a trustee. I know in the past, and we talked about that at the previous meeting, so that's my feeling. So do you?
I'd just like to say it has nothing to do with the fire department, so doing that, but I've got a lot on my plate. I think it'd just be fair that Ms. McKee do this.
And I have confidence she'll do a good job, so. Go ahead.
Is that the one that Bubba is already certified to be that?
He's been trained, that's correct.
Training, yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that. Okay.
But he's also one that can be tested because he's a driver, so he can't
Make sure what that was.
be the representative.
Roll call,
That's
please.
fine.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Next one, and we don't have to spend a lot of discussion, you got some materials, you got them late because I've been waiting for the Morpsey representative to get back to me regarding the Morpsey Planner Pool Program. It's a program when you have a need for a planner, or in this case, you don't have a zoning inspector, you can you have to pay them a fee, but they have a pool of planners at various levels, plus interns that can fill in during the interim while you interview to replace that position. So currently we have Mr. Latella serving in that capacity, but back to what I made at an earlier meeting, I think ultimately when we go full-time or get a full-time person, I'd like to see them have a higher level of skill regarding planning and inspection. So I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. I know you just got it late, and I do want to apologize. You're right, those engineering things should have been emailed, and that was an oversight.
That's fine. I understand.
That's why I didn't want to make, and I think we'll revisit that with maybe a request for additional submissions on that. But do you have anything?
No, I just think I was glad to see you being proactive and looking at opportunities where we can get some assistance, especially with the vacancies and our growing township. We're going to need some assistance, and so I think that's good. I don't know, what are you thinking? Just you're putting it out there in the next meeting, kind of consider it, or give you the
Yeah, I think we need to consider it. I know there's a lot of moving. I agree with both of you that we want to make a replacement on some of these vacancies as quickly as possible, but I think we need to be prudent and do a proper search and get a proper, I think we need to take some time. Is it a burden at this time? Yes, it's a burden on everyone, and it's tough on our employees as well, but I'm more than happy to continue to work with them and try to fill in some of the parts that I can. Another option, if we do go with an engineering firm that on some of these plan reviews, then, that would probably be a collaborative effort between our new person plus the engineering firm. Probably the most important thing I'm concerned about now is the technical review committees. When a project development project comes in, that Mr. Singleton attended those meetings and had comments regarding the zoning issues, but you also have the fire department and soil and water to go in there to go over the plans to make sure they're in compliance with all those different agencies. So in that regard, we probably need someone like this that has a skill level to be able to read the plans and then also match it up with the zoning.
Right.
Have a discussion, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
The plan pool is through Middle Ohio Regional Planning Commission.
Correct.
And assistant planner and planning intern is $55 an hour.
Correct.
The associate planner is $85 an hour.
Correct.
The senior planner is $100 an hour.
Correct.
And the principal planner is $130 an hour. And then the data and mapping staff is $135 an hour. Now, with that being said, there's different levels as I read through that. So your planner, we already have through the commissioner, the county, which we don't pay anything for that. So we have our own planner through the county commission. Now, if we did go this route, that's not guaranteed. They're into zoning. Those are two different things. Okay, planning and zoning are two different things. So my question would be, are we going to be guaranteed that this person will be able to do zoning? And then not only that, you're talking about who's going to write the violations and because the county still has a jurisdiction over planning. So how do we move forward in something like this that we're spending money? And also, they would have to be familiar with the engineer's office, the soil and water. They would have to work with the fire. I mean, all those are moving parts as a planner. And so I just wanted to know, I mean, why would we go out and spend this money as a township where we can go and use the county like we've been using all along?
Well,
I just don't get it.
Well, let me clarify. That is a good question, a very good question. We definitely, before we do anything here, we'd want to vet who they were going to recommend and do they have the experience. Most people that have a degree in urban planning also know zoning and have to know zoning, because if you're planning, you have to incorporate zoning. You can't plan something and then say, oh, well, it's in violation of the zoning. No criticism of Licking County planning, but a lot of people said they're basically plan review because they don't have enough staff or time to actually do long-term planning. So, and that's not their fault. Some of that's finding good planners and resources. But you bring up a good point that while I thought maybe we'd have someone here, I think we'd still have our interim inspector to write violations and everything, but if it came to a technical review committee on a development, I think this would be a good option to go, or with an engineering firm, since they actually, but it still would have to, the scope of work would still have to deal with the zoning. My biggest concern is we've not really enforced zoning adequately on these major projects.
So, because your planner commission can write code. Just to be clear, I know I worked for Division of Industrial Compliance, and I worked with a lot of planners. And planners do write codes, but they have nothing to do with the zoning side of it. And that's why I want to make it clear that we would still need to get a person that does the zoning side of it. Am I correct, Mr. Burkholder?
Well, well, what they do, they'd have to read our zoning resolution. When a plan would come in, they'd look at it and say, is it in compliance, or the setbacks? But you got to read the code, because, which is the zoning resolution, because every community is different.
Yes.
And so you have to make sure that if you're going to get a consultant like that, this has to be the scope of service. And if they can't handle that, then we certainly want to get them. But I wanted to just bring the topic here.
Can I just briefly, this is just as needed.
Right.
There's deadlines and timelines involved with the technical review committee and all that. We don't, our current assistant zoning inspector, I don't believe, could handle all that. So in order to be able to provide the services that we're required to do, we need to have some options until either we bring full-time people in or not. Now, the costs are a little bit higher, but when you account for the benefits, the au pairs and all that stuff, the per hour cost of our actual zoning inspector is a lot higher than just the standard wage. And these people wouldn't be putting in 40 hours a week. They would be putting in the hours needed for that specific task. So overall, without a zoning inspector salary and all that in there, it might be a wash, or it might be a little bit more, but we have to ensure that these services continue regardless of staffing and that. So even having the option to bring them in, because we could engage with them and not use them, but that project comes in where we need that review for the TRC, we can have someone to go to instead of scrambling to try to find somebody at that point.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for any action tonight, so I appreciate the questions and clarifications on that.
So it's not a contractual situation, like I'm reading here, agreement.
Well, I think that there would be an agreement, so, but we'd have to specify the scope of services that we want from them and the time commitment. Item K, reassignment of trustee responsibilities. Mr. Evans, you requested this. We have talked about splitting up some of the things, as we did for many, many years prior to having an administrator.
Yeah.
So that we can follow up on a few things.
Yeah, I think because until we decide what's going on with the administrative position, that I know it was default. It goes to the board president, but that's just too much to handle. So I think I'd be willing to take on a bit more and, ensure things are done. And I think we could, while you focus on the office zoning and that, I was recommending that Ms. McKee take back the cemetery and deal with town hall reservations to take a little bit of work off the president, and I could deal with roads and the parks.
I don't recommend that, Mr. Burke.
Go ahead. What
Evans, you brought the cemetery stuff up about a month ago with all this stuff on the board, and you had all these ideas. I think you'll be an excellent person for that, and I think you should do the cemetery.
What would you like to? What would you like to?
It's not that I want to. What I like to do, as a trustee, my job is to provide oversight as a trustee. And I know we had a wonderful administrator in here that was doing her job. And she's no longer with the township.
Do you want any?
Let me finish. And, in the beginning of me becoming the president of the board, that I didn't choose to do because I was trying to calm down and not having these long meetings and fighting and back and forth.
Okay, let's stay on point.
Let me stay on point. You're right. So I spent a lot of time in this office.
Right.
So we brought in a consultant to see if we needed an administrator, and yes, we did, so we hired that administrator.
Okay,
So they're no longer with us, let me finish.
No, point of order here now.
Okay, so,
The question was very simple. We're not gonna start digressing into all these things that we did in the past, because I don't see any utility. My question is, are there areas that you would like to take the lead on and bring the information back to the board?
well, I can continue to do the parks like I've been doing. That's no problem.
Okay,
That's no problem, continue, because the parks is something that I was on the board and I was a part of the park.
right,
So I have no problem with doing that.
okay,
Now, I took on with the Ohio Health Consortium Township Representative.
Correct.
I took on that, not a problem at all. So those are two things that I've taken so far. Yes.
well, go ahead, Mr. Evans.
I would just like to say, I think the parks are too important right now, and not to litigate the past, but the information has not been shared, and the park committee meetings were not advertised.
Okay,
No, but they weren't advertised as they should have been.
I understand, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I've talked to Jim Jackowitz, and as I said here, we are going to start notifying, they're going to go on the master calendar, it's a public meeting, and they're going to have to follow the sunshine law. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm very well aware of what's happened, but we're going to make a decision on how we're going to divide things up,
And I got the CAUV as well, so I got that on there as well.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that Ms. McKee deal with the parks. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? And then we'll go to the other assignments as well, Mr. Evans. But I want to try to be equitable and try to keep both of you somewhat satisfied with how we divide
being
things.
satisfied, it's about doing the right things.
I believe it can be equitable, but I mean, I've taken on quite a bit, but again, I'm concerned about the past actions, and they'll just continue.
Mr. Evans, I've already said we're going to stay on point, so I'm going to call the question on the motion.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, that motion passes. Now, Mr. Evans, if you want to make a motion, I think you would be the best person for roads. And and if you don't want to take that on, I'm willing to take that on, given my background, but I want to, what, you do have.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, there's quite a bit on my plate, and like I said, even the fire district, that is a huge operation, and there's a lot of time invested in that. I can take more.
Well, I'll tell you.
I don't want to overburden you.
No, I'm fine. Because I have been working on Pike Street, would you be amenable to me taking the roads and the
Yeah, I'll motion for Trustee Burkholder to be over the road department.
And zoning?
I'll second.
Well, I thought we were doing each separate, but and zoning in the office, if you want to.
Will you second that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll take it. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we got that taken care of.
Can I motion for Ms. McKee to take on the cemetery and town hall reservations?
Well, that's.
I mean, basically cemetery and parks, that's what she had before.
Do you mind having?
I don't want a cemetery. I think Mr. Evans should take the cemetery for the fact of the matter. He came in with a problem. He posted it all up on the board, and he had all these ideals. I think you should complete it.
Well, to spread the workload, Mr. Evans, if you're willing to, and I don't expect a lot of solutions on the cemetery, it's right out the bat, because we've got so much other stuff we're dealing with. Would you take it, or do you want me to take it?
I mean, honestly, I feel overloaded with everything else.
Okay,
I
then
feel
I'll make a motion, Gary Burkholder take on the cemeteries. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And I do appreciate it. We all have a lot, so I'm fine with that if everybody else is. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes.
We've got town hall reservations and public records, maybe?
Well, whoever does the office usually does that. They're going to do it all in one.
Yeah, we'll take care of that for now. I don't know that has to go through a trustee. I think it might be better administratively.
Yeah.
What about public records?
Well,
point person needs to be.
Well, I think public records, I still have some public records I'm working on as well, so I'll work with the fiscal officer on that.
Okay.
But you send them to the Etna Township Etna Township at Etna Township, and I think we'll figure that out. But I don't want to overload any one person. That's really a collaborative effort. And we do have a backlog, so we're still trying to work through some of the public record issues.
But my question is, when it comes into 4 people, they should get a response of, it's been received, we're working on it, it'll be fulfilled. Like, I think somebody has to take point, because otherwise something's gonna get missed.
Send it to Etna Township at etnatownship.com. We'll check that. I'll work with the township secretary and staff to make sure we're checking that. And we'll do our best then to be timely on those. But I agree, you should acknowledge that you've received it, and there's some I still need to acknowledge and then deal with those issues. Item L. Motion to authorize the board president to contract with a temporary employment service to create a job description and send the township candidates, and have that agency send the township candidates for a temporary administrative assistant. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Ms.
So
McKee.
when you say a temporary administrative assistant, like Laura, somebody works with Laura? Or how do you try to understand?
Well, we want to define what those job skills are, and I think that's something I'd have to bring all of this would come back to the board. But we're going to need some other staffing within the town hall. And I've talked to the fiscal officer and others that logistically to handle the load on a temporary basis. I'm cognizant of what some citizens have said. We do want to look long-term and permanent, but we have an immediate need now.
Correct.
And so that's what this is designed, but I'm open to any recommendations or discussions from...
Oh, that's what I wanted to make sure.
No, I'm glad you asked it. Mr. Evans, do you have any thoughts on this?
I just think that it's got to come to the board either, maybe, I know I don't like special meetings, but just with the timeline of things, that it should be dealt with sooner than later of getting candidates in, and because again, we've got to ensure that we can provide the services we need to.
I agree, and that's why I wanted to bring this to the, I'm willing to take the lead on this since I'm in the office and working with it, so.
This person would work in the office with answering the phones, filing, typing, answering emails. Is that what we're going with this?
Well, that would be some of it, but if they have more advanced skills, I'm told that most professional administrative assistants now are very familiar with the Microsoft suite. So it would be a variety of things, working on not only filing, but I know we want to have a records commission meeting, assisting with the records we have there, and to the level, I think it would be good to get somebody with a high skill level.
No. So when you say records meeting, are you talking about the board, the commission, records commission?
Yeah, I haven't scheduled a record, which is the fiscal officer and the president of the board. We haven't scheduled a meeting yet because we have all these other things, but it is on, it's on our radar that that's something we need to work on. And so, you know, the main thing is having pace here. We don't have the bandwidth to deal with all these projects the way we want to, so we have to put the most urgent at the top of the list.
So this temporary administrative assistant, would it be like a 40-hour week type job?
I will take recommendations from you and Mr. Evans on how we think we need to structure that.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Well, I think those
I
are
would
all
say
good.
probably going to need 40 hours at minimum, because we're going to be losing the secretary. Those would be secretarial duties and anything else they could provide based on their experience, but we need to get somebody.
Well, and I think I need to bring options so that the full board can decide what's going to work best, including anything. Fiscal officer, do you have any?
Talk about interviews and
Or I can't hear you.
are you going to talk about interviews or having a special meeting, or who's going to?
Well, they would send us, once I get a hold of them, the agency, they would go ahead and send us, it's my understanding, a pool of applicants, and then we would decide which ones we'd want to have an interview with, so.
So we're not a special meeting for everybody to review the stuff?
Well, I'll see how quickly we can turn it around.
Well, we could probably review all their qualifications, applications, whatever, individually.
Yes.
And then call a special meeting
Yes.
to interview, and then choose.
Those that come in could be forwarded, that's correct. Okay, roll call?
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And item N, make a motion to direct Brochus and Griggs to transfer all township files to Bricker Graydon LLP and to authorize Bricker Graydon LLP to A, review and advise on the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District's opinion that the district is exempt from township zoning and related matters, and B, review and advise on all JEDs and JEDZs. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead, Ms. McKee.
Okay. Just wanted to talk about, okay, I know, the board decided to move over to this Brickler and Graydon LLP. Now, just to be clear, when we left Alberts and moved over to Griggs, it was very expensive, cost us a lot of money, the township, to move this stuff over. And Griggs is very, very, very familiar with JEDs and townships. He's very known for that. So I know we have to, since you guys we're no longer going to go with Peter Griggs' office. Sounds like you're going to completely have Brooklyn at Grayson do all that work for the JEDs and JEDZs.
Yes, and
where we're going with that?
well, and I can fill you in on that. I had a telephone call with Peter Griggs, and I said, how much work have you done on the JEDs and JEDZs? And he said, not really much.
Okay.
Now, I'm not blaming him for that, don't get me wrong, but I believe that the Bricker Graydon firm has a larger staff and is much more experienced in that. And in my conversations with them, it's also about compliance for the JEDs and the JEDZs. There is a whole lot of information that needs to be unwound with these JEDs and JEDZs and what the requirements are and who gets a cut. And of course, as you know, being on the boards, that Mr. Alberts has raised, what can you reimburse to the township and what you can't. And those have been great conversations so that we stay in compliance. So I did talk to Mr. Griggs, and if we move forward with this, then I think it's my understanding they'll be very cooperative in that transfer. I also believe not that these firms don't represent a lot of different entities, but I think they represent quite a few entities in this area. Other townships as well, and I don't want that to conflict with what the goals are of Etna Township.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you knew this, but they were the, in regards to the park property, I don't know if they divulged that information, but they were the ones that wrote the contract for the Langle property. Were you familiar with that?
I don't know if I recall that or not. And did they write the David Hodge rewrite the TIF too?
No, I don't believe that. I think it was the purchase contract. But one of the questions and concerns I had was there's two caveats that put it in escrow: the service of the sewer, and then also their plan being approved at the county. And Brochus and Griggs repeatedly have not been able to answer when exactly those trigger. So that's what I'm kind of concerned that hasn't really been followed up. And I think that's where Bricker and Graydon can do that. But I would also ask that when you say township files, does that also include all communications? Because I think that would be important. And then one of the issues that I think is important is annexation issues that maybe Bricker and Graydon should take up. We've got the annexation with agreement with Reynoldsburg, and we're fine there. I'm concerned about on the Kirkersville side that they'll be pushed. So I think they should start trying to address that.
Can we put that on the next agenda?
They can, but I think sooner rather than later.
Do you want to amend the motion?
Yeah, I move to amend the motion to include C, review and advise on potential annexation issues and I don't know if you'd call abatement to stop that.
Is there a second?
Is that for discussion? Is that to move it to?
Well, I'll make a second on the amendment now.
Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Is that to move it to?
Well, it's part of it's an amendment
To include.
to include, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, I will Okay, so I don't have any more questions on that, but we're not finished with this motion that we're into right now.
That's correct. The
Okay.
main motion is still pending,
Okay.
so
I want to continue.
I'll ask for a roll call on the amendment to the motion.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
amendment passes. Any further discussion on the main motion to transfer the files over to?
Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
please. Okay, when, review and advise on the Southwest Licking Water and Sewer opinion on the
Right.
district. I don't know if you got that last email from Amy.
I did.
Okay.
And I've had conversation with Jim Roberts of the district because I've not corresponded back to him what we did at our previous meeting saying, well, we're not sure if we agree, although I know what the prosecutor has stated to us. But Mr. Roberts doesn't necessarily agree with the prosecutor either. So quite frankly, the reason I want a firm to deal with this is because it's their expertise. And I want to make sure we as a board collectively get this right. If they are exempt, well, they're exempt, but we voted that they should comply with the zoning. And given some of the problems we've had with the zoning out here, and given the fact that this whole thing being exempt was discussed last August, and I don't know, did you know about it last August?
I did not, it was kept from me.
I want to make sure that we get an expert legal opinion on this. And yes, it's going to cost money, but that's an $85 million plant. And I want to make sure it's done correctly from a township perspective so that we don't have to come back later and say, well, yeah, I guess we made a mistake, or we didn't have the setback, or there's a problem with the wetlands. There's already been problems with that site, from what I've been told by the district. So I just want to make sure we work with the district, but treat them correctly, and everyone at the end of the day comes to a consensus. So my conversation was very positive with Mr. Roberts, but I told him, I said, you know, I disagree with the district's position.
So you don't trust what the prosecutors weighed in on their opinion, so you...
No,
I'm not saying I shouldn't use the word trust.
Well, I'm more than happy to comment on that. They are generalists, not specialists. And I read the opinion, and but given the fact that neither side agrees, I'd like that second opinion to make sure that this issue is totally vetted out. And everybody knows that the township did our due diligence, and this is going to be our stand when it comes to zoning. Because they're claiming utilities are exempt from zoning.
And if we do deny their request, it could end up in a lawsuit because they have sued other entities when they've been denied. So I think it is the proper course of action to get another opinion.
Well, I appreciate that insight, and I hope we can resolve this issue amicably. I think that's the goal of everybody. But I want to make sure we're on the right side of the law. Any further discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Ms. McKee.
I know, I'm thinking.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine.
I'm thinking money in my head. I'm thinking what you said about the opinion from somebody that's expertise in that
Yes.
area where, but I also am thinking
Is it a discussion?
district too, but,
Yeah, but you'll have to make a vote.
yes, so I will go ahead and say no.
Okay.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Motion passes. Down to fiscal officer, any transfer, please?
I don't, but I wanted to mention before I forget, do we need to have a conversation, or does there need to be a board vote on that 1 week of vacation that we talked about for Ms. Hanson?
No, I'll deal with that administratively.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no transfer of funds.
Then I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-012 to approve purchase orders.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'll make a motion to ratify the payment of bills as shown on the payment listing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee? Yes.
Motion passes. We've already taken care of the executive session, announcement and trustee comments. Ms. McKee? You have anything?
This is the one thing, we already discussed that, so we're not gonna move forward on it.
On the, yeah, you want to go ahead and,
Well,
regarding the farm?
no, because that, no, I was gonna ask about, and we already discussed it, about moving the Lincoln Day.
The Lincoln Day.
So we already-
Well, I wanted to go too, but I just felt that
Yeah.
I didn't see that that would be proper to move a regular meeting date simply because we want to attend a political function, so.
Yeah, well, let me ask this because I do want to use the logo, and I think I should be transparent and bring it to the board if I wanted to buy an ad to put in that book. So we would need to bring it to the board if I could use the Etna Township ad, just to put an ad that trustee, myself as a trustee is supporting that, doing an ad for.
Well, you can do an ad on your own,
No, I'm
yeah.
gonna do it on my own. I
Yeah.
understood that. It's not the part I'm pointing at. I'm talking about using our logo. I would prefer to bring it to the board if that's something we can do or would like to do. I'm just being transparent about it. We don't have to, but just
I don't
remember,
think
that
that
we
would
ever
be
use
an
the
ethics
logo, it has
commission.
to be a board.
Oh, I don't
Yes,
know.
yes, we should bring it to the board if we want to ever do a board. If we
I
ever
mean,
want to
because
use the logo.
I think that would kind of insinuate that it's approved by the township, and I'd be leery about that, but I would almost get an opinion or ethics opinion.
Well, I'd decide on the times that's coming up so soon, you wouldn't have an opinion by then, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. I mean,
That's fine. That's why I brought it to the board.
no,
So
I appreciate it. Just
just wanna make sure-
design your ad and, nope, that's fine.
Yep, so we'll make sure that that's on record, that we will not be using our logo for anything outside of this, so, okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it
Mr.
for me,
Evans?
thank you.
The only thing I have is the list. I'd like to just, and I provided before the prosecutor, since we have that procedure now that Mr. Burkholder is the point
Right.
person, and any work or issues done has to be either brought up or approved by you. To make it simpler for the prosecutor, I typed this list up, provided to the board, so I just asked that Mr. Burkholder approves and signs that. We could do it by motion of the board or you individually, but I want to bring it up in public.
Yes, that is correct, and I appreciate the clarification that contact with outside counsel and the prosecutor is supposed to come through the president at the request of other board members so that they're not bombarded with 3 different trustees asking sometimes the same question. So any further discussion on the prosecutor request approval? I'm fine with the items.
Should I make a motion, or?
You should.
I move that the prosecutor request approval as stated 1 through 6 is approved, and Mr. Burkholder can sign after the meeting.
Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion? I think this will streamline, plus you've been working on these issues like the 629 and the Supportive Treble LLC. I also want to, I guess, clarify that we have when it comes to staffing, any trustee can ask them for a question or information, but please work through me on that thing as far as any kind of directives, because we still have a 3.5-hour BZA minutes that we need to try to turn around as quickly as possible. So I'm working with our secretary to try to get those done so we can get those back to the BZA. I'm told the BZA doesn't have to have those draft to set another meeting, but we're still waiting to hear back from the president, who's working with the BZA members to find a convenient date so that they can go back and schedule another meeting on that conditional use that was requested.
And then the only other thing I wanted to say is on the password, since it was brought up, that we did not change any policy whatsoever that was in effect at all. That policy's been standard, and what we're trying to do is get the passwords with the fiscal officer that can hold them, secure them, store them for these instances where people leave, because there's still some that have refused to provide those. So we need to ensure continuity of services, and doing that. Now, there's other options we should look at. There's programs. I use password programs. Fiscal officer does too, so we can work at that, but we have an immediate need right now. And again, that is not change policy.
There's a motion on the floor.
Well, it's not just the.
Oh, there was a motion on the floor, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's still not just the passwords for, you're talking the password to enter the door. You know, that's one of the things you're asking for. Every person that enters this door as a board member or employee, you want their password. That's not something no trustee's ever had. It's never caused you not to do your job or be a trustee or them do their job. I think that's irrelevant.
Okay, well, let's get back to any further. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes. It's 9:15.
We stand adjourned at 9:15 PM. Thank you for coming.